Hey there guys, my name is Christopher from the Red Rising Group, and welcome back to the Arifureta Season 1 Recap Series. This is the final part of the series and we'll be covering the entirety of everything which happened in Volume 4 of the Arifureta light novel. But before we begin, please be sure to check out the previous parts which covers everything from Volumes 1, 2, and 3 of the Arifureta light novel in order to get yourselves up to date. Also, if you guys enjoyed this video, then please be sure to like and comment on the video your thoughts about the second season of Arifureta. And be sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video, because I can assure you that if you like this video, you'll be sure to enjoy the other videos that we make on the channel. Anyways, with that all said and done, let's get into the final part of Season 1. After making their way back to Fuden with Will in their party, Hajime and Shia decided to go on a date as part of a reward for saving Aiko back at the town of Ur. During that date, they went to an aquarium, and there, Hajime and Shia came across a fish creature that was said to have the ability to talk through the use of telepathy, and eventually at the end, Hajime decided to free the fish out. Now, this might seem completely random to you all, but rest assured, as this will all make sense in the future. Anyways, sometime during the day, Hajime, using his sense presence, was able to detect something below the sewers and pointed out that it was a kid. Shia and Hajime quickly rushed to the sewers and eventually managed to save the child, whom Shia was able to recognize as a Dagon, which is a unique beastman race in Tortoise. Upon waking up, the Dagon introduced herself as Mew, and realizing that she was hungry and dirty, Shia bathed the girl while Hajime went to buy clothes for her. After she was clean and proper, Mew decided to tell them everything which happened that led her in the sewers, a story which involved her being separated from her mother and being kidnapped by humans. After mulling over, they decided to bring Mew to the safety department for them to take care of her, as the group were headed to the Labyrinth and were unable to take care of her in the meantime. Though, Mew fought back as she wanted to stay with them, but she eventually lost and ended up at the safety department, much to her sadness. However, a short while after they left the Dagon girl behind, the safety department was destroyed, with Mew nowhere to be found. Rather, they found a notice addressing them which suggested that they were using her as a hostage. Angered, Hajime grouped back up with Yu and Tio in order to locate Mew's location. And after destroying different locations and killing plenty of people, the group eventually learned that she was at an evening auction house, ready to be sold off. With that information at hand, Hajime headed to the auction house, and like how he normally handles his enemies, Hajime ruthlessly killed everyone in sight and managed to save Mew in the process. It was after this experience that Hajime decided that it would be better to bring her along with them, much to Mew's sheer happiness. And amidst of all this, the Demon of the Abyss was suddenly upgraded from Big Brother to Father. After everything was done, the group left Fuden and were headed to the Grand Volcano for their next Labyrinth challenge. But they decided to make a quick stop at Horwat due to a request from Ilwa. Hajime was immediately struck by nostalgia, as this was the very town that he had rested in before entering the Orcus Labyrinth, where he fell and became the monster of the abyss. With that, the group entered the Adventurers Guild in order to carry out Ilwa's quest. But crashing into the guild hall was none other than Endo Kosuke, who was begging for help. Now, before we continue, let's rewind the clock to a few hours back and move over to Koki and his companions, who are now exploring the 90th floor of the Orcus Labyrinth. The group easily advanced through the 89th floor and were making their way through the 90th. However, it was safe to say that it was unlike any other floors beforehand, as a demon walked up to them, asking them to join her and the demon race. However, as expected, Koki refused the offer, which then led the demon to attack them. While they attempted to fight back, the group were completely overwhelmed by the demon and her monsters, leaving them in a bad state. Because of that, the group decided to retreat, but even then, it had been extremely difficult for them. Because of this, the group had Endo Kosuke, the assassin of the group, whom already had a very low presence from the start, was told to deliver the news of the demon to Captain Meld, who was waiting for them all at the 70th floor. While the group were busy recovering their strengths, Endo managed to arrive at where Meld was to inform them about what had occurred at the 90th floor. But that was when the demon appeared before them and attacked the group. And similarly like before, Captain Meld and his knights were easily defeated. And this defeat caused Meld to tell Endo to request for reinforcements from up above, something he reluctantly agreed to. And now we found ourselves back at the Adventurers Guild, where Endo explained everything which had occurred at the Labyrinth to Hajime, who had seemed reluctant to go. But he ultimately decided to accept it, not in concern for the rest of his classmates, but just for one in particular, Kaori. Meanwhile, back in the Labyrinth, the battle between the demon and the hero group continues. And while Kogi managed to overpower the demon after witnessing Meld blow himself up, he faltered as he could not kill the demon. A demon who made full use of this opportunity and placed the group in an even worse position than before. Even Shizuku, who had been one of the strongest in the group, was defeated by a monster. And just when she was about to be attacked, Kaori rushed out to her as the two best friends held each other tightly, while Kaori whispered the name of the boy she loved with all her heart. And as the monster ready to swing its weapon at them, one person came crashing down to save them, with it being who else but Hajime himself. While it took Shizuku a while to realize who it was, Kaori immediately recognized the boy in an instant. But the heartfelt reunion would be put on hold as Hajime immediately got into battle, while Yue was in charge of protecting the hero group. Meanwhile, Endo reunites with his classmates, who asked about the white-haired man's identity, to which he tells them that it was none other than Hajime, much to their sheer shock. But Hiyama instantly refuted against this claim, saying that Hajime Nagumo died that day, much to everyone's confusion. And the reason he acted out so persistently was due to his nervousness at being ratted out. If Hajime, the person he tried to kill, was still alive, that meant that he could reveal what he had done to the group, which would completely destroy his plans of obtaining Kaori for his own. Anyways, after killing all the monsters, the demon now found herself standing in front of the gun. But before Hajime could pull the trigger, Koki stopped him, telling him that since the demon had surrendered, there was no reason to kill her, trying to get him to obey his orders. And in response to those words, Hajime proceeded to kill the demon with a single bullet to the head. This shocked everyone in the group, but the one who was most shocked by this was Kaori herself. She knew full well what kind of person Hajime was, and she was surprised at the fact that he had killed someone without any hesitation whatsoever. And as Koki tried to confront him about what happened, it was only after Hajime and Yue began flirting with each other that Kaori stepped into the picture. The girl began crying tears of joy as she hugged him, apologizing for failing to save him in the beginning, and thanking him for saving them, for staying alive. But the person who interrupted this heartfelt moment was none other than the hero, Koki himself, who was still angry at Hajime for killing someone. As he continued to demand for an answer after being ignored continuously, Hajime finally decided to answer him, telling Koki that he wasn't angry because he killed someone, but because the demon was killed in front of him. And when Koki tried answering back, Hajime instantly closed the distance and placed a gun to his head, telling him that he was willing to kill anyone who got in his way, including his former classmates. This terrified the group, but most of all, it confused Kaori. She hadn't expected the Hajime Nagumo she once knew to end up this way. She was immediately snapped back to reality after noticing that Yue was staring at her. Yue, who noticed that Kaori was hesitating on her feelings for Hajime after his change, looked at her before looking away with a sneer. This marked the beginning of the rivalry between Yue and Kaori. As the group exited the labyrinth, they immediately encountered a group of bandits who lusted after the girls from Hajime's party. And I'm sure we all know how it'll end, with Hajime defeating the bandits without any trouble whatsoever. But it was only after seeing Hajime ruthlessly defeat a group of bandits that Kaori realized her feelings for him once more. She fell in love with the kind-hearted Hajime, who was willing to do anything to protect the people he cared about. With a step forward, the girl walked up to Hajime and confessed her feelings to him, only to be rejected as Hajime already had Yue. However, instead of giving up, she told him that she wanted to join him on his journey, regardless, and that she would make him fall in love with her eventually. While Hajime still hesitated, Yue accepted her offer and told her to join them after all. Now, this next part was not covered in the anime, so for you anime onlys, be sure to listen carefully. However, this task wouldn't be as simple as that, as the resident hero was confused by this. Confused that Kaori was in love with Hajime. It just didn't make sense to him. She was supposed to stay by his side forever. Those were the thoughts that harbored in his mind. In his confusion, he immediately accused Hajime for doing something to Kaori. But as Shizuku and Kaori tried to let him know that Hajime had done nothing wrong, he refused their words. He even went as far as forbidding Kaori from joining him, slandering Hajime in an attempt to change her mind. But he didn't stop there. He tried reaching out to the other girls in Hajime's party as well, using his handsomeness to appeal to Yue and the others to join him, which ultimately failed, as it creeped them out more than anything. And after seeing that they were ignoring him, Koki immediately challenged Hajime to a fight with the intention of separating Kaori and the other girls from Hajime. While most people would see this act as desperation, to Koki, this was a righteous act, which just shows how his mentality works. But the fight eventually ended up with him being stuck in a ditch, completely knocked out. But the problem didn't end there, as Hiyama now begged Kaori to stay with the group, even as far as apologizing to Hajime for their past bullying. But he immediately stopped after Hajime asked if his fireball skill was getting better. A subtle hint which tells Hiyama that Hajime knew the entire truth, which caused him to back down. With that, Kaori was now an official member of Hajime's group, as they now headed to the Grand Guen volcano for their next Labyrinth challenge. Later that night, two people were left suffering after Kaori joined together with Hajime. The first was Koki, who was jealous that Kaori had been in love with Hajime all along, and not him. Because of that, he still believed that he was the right person for Kaori, thinking that Hajime had done something to her. Had it not been for Shizuku to flick him on the head, telling him off. She told him to stop always believing that he was right, to stop blindly believing in his sense of righteousness, and to start thinking straight. At the end of her speech, Koki begged Shizuku to not leave him, to which she responded that she wasn't as ephemeral as the moon, but didn't quite like clingy guys, leaving him to his own thoughts. And the second person was none other than Hiyama, who was cursing himself. After everything he had done to ensure Kaori would be his had been ruined. But that was when the same classmate who approached him that first night appeared before him, telling him that their plans would not fail and that another chance will arise very soon. All they needed was a single bait. And this marks the end of the Arifureta Season 1 recap series. Now, rest assured, as I will immediately begin working on the cut content for Arifureta Season 2. But I'll first need to watch it, as I decided to wait till I was done with this series to begin watching it. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this series, then please be sure to subscribe to the channel for more anime content on the channel, and please like the video and comment down below your thoughts on Arifureta Season 2. Is it better than expected, or can it still be improved on? Well, with that all said and done, it's time to end the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!